afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a special edition of the Long Hill Report. Today we have Steve Jean from the Pasture Prime Players because they have a production coming up of Noel Coward's Blithe Spirit, which is about a blithe spirit. But we will first ask Steve Jean to introduce himself, not that he is unknown in the local community, but tell us your role in the Pasture Prime Players.
Well,
and how you got here and everything.
Yeah. My role in Pasture Prime Players Theater is I got involved with the theater about almost exactly 8 years ago. I made my first appearance in a play here. Since then, I've done several shows. Actually now the president of the board of directors of the theater, and we needed someone to direct our fall show, which is upcoming, Blithe Spirit, as you mentioned, and it basically fell on me to make my directorial debut.
Okay, good. Well, so you're here. You're part of the team. You've been part of the team for, what'd you say, 8 years. Was that your acting debut? Was that 8 years ago?
Yep.
And who did you play then?
I played a doctor. I'm gonna forget his name, but I played a doctor. I had a very small role that I basically fell into by accident because they needed someone. My daughter was involved in the youth program here called Pasture Bedtime Players. I came to her rap party for one of the shows that she was in, and long story short, they needed someone. I sort of volunteered. I had a small audition. I got the part. I had about 15 or so lines, many of which I messed up on. And but I always say, I still remember the moment first walking out, and it's a goose pimple moment to walk out, even in a small theater, under the lights, where you can't really see the audience, and you're out there, and it's do or die. You have to come through or look like a fool.
I'm sure you looked perfectly well. Great. And now you're going to look pretty good, telling us about Blithe Spirit.
Well, as you mentioned, Blithe Spirit was a play originally. I believe it was adapted into a movie later on, which Noel Coward actually starred in, as he was an actor, writer. It's set in the early 40s. I believe he kept references to the war, which was ongoing at the time, out of it because it was sort of a distraction. It created as a distraction. The plot is fairly interesting. It is a comedy. I wouldn't necessarily call it a dark comedy, although it involves a certain amount of death. But the basic premise is a gentleman whose wife had passed away about 7 years earlier due to a pneumonia, I believe. He's remarried, seemingly happily. He's a writer, and he's going to write a book about a medium, and he's doing some research, so he invites a local medium to his house to hold a seance. Without giving the whole plot away, what ends up happening is he conjures up his ex-wife, and she haunts the house, I guess you could say, and in her desire to be reunited with her husband, she calculates a plan to sent him to the afterlife, I guess you would say. But it's miscalculated, and basically he ends up with two wives haunting his home.
Ooh.
Thus the comedy ensues.
And it was a musical, wasn't it?
No.
No, it wasn't a musical. Coward was known for musicals, though. Okay.
If it was a musical, I would not be involved because I cannot hold a tune.
Not even for the dance numbers, I take
No.
it, no? Okay.
That's even worse.
Oh, okay. Well, seeing is not going to be either a dance or song. You should have said, "Oh, I could have done it perfectly, and you could have got away with it. Nobody would have noticed." But that you were that you are modest in that way is all to your credit.
Thank you.
So the dates are?
The dates are October 25th and 26th, and November 1st and 2nd at 7:30. Those are Friday and Saturday evening shows. And then the 27th, I believe, and the 3rd are matinees at 2 p.m. So the evening shows are 7:30, and the Sunday matinees are 2 p.m.
And they'll be here at the
They will be here at the
Cultural
Charlton Arts and Activities Center.
For, what's the Dresser Hill? For Dresser Hill.
4 Dresser Hill Road, Charlton, Massachusetts.
We've heard of it.
Yeah.
Anyway, so you have a cast of characters, of talented actors. You want to talk about that?
Sure. We were very lucky to get the cast that we have. Post-pandemic, I think there's been a sort of a change in how things go, and maybe less people involved in the theater, people who maybe left. But we were lucky we had more people turn out than we had parts for, which is always a good dilemma. It's always difficult. I shouldn't say always, because it's the first time I ever had to do it, but it's difficult to tell the people that were very good on their auditions that there isn't a spot for them. But we were lucky. We have a cast of 7, and they're all very talented and getting ready to put on a really good show.
And are those actors and actresses, they veteran Pasture Prime people?
Most of them are veterans of the theater. A few, this will be their debut performance here. Some others have performed here. In community theater, it's always desirable to get new people involved. So we do have some new people that weren't previously involved here at Pasture Prime.
And you want to talk about these people?
Sure. I'll try to remember all proper names and cast members.
You can refer.
I should be good. The lead role is Charles, and that is played by a gentleman named John Golden. He actually lives in Agawam, Massachusetts, so he's making a trip out here for every rehearsal. And he made his local debut in a production at a neighboring theater in Southbridge a year or so ago, and I happened to see that in him, so I was very happy when he came out to audition for our show. The 2 female leads, the wives, one is played by Laura O'Brien, who's an accomplished actress who'd spent time in New York City and actually has, I think, been compensated for her performances and well-deserved.
And is she the departed or the current?
She plays the previously dead wife. The current wife is played by Madeline Waters, who I believe has done some theater in the past, mostly at the collegiate level, I believe. So I think she's maybe making a comeback into adult performances. And then we have a couple of veterans of our local productions. Tay Gillipoo, pronounce that correctly. She's playing the wife of the doctor, Dr. Bradman, so it's Dr. and Mrs. Bradman. The doctor is played by Mikey Dern, who's done several productions here as well. And also, I think rounding out the cast, if my math is correct, there are 2 additional ones. One is Carol Allard, and she plays the psychic. And she had previously appeared here with me in a very successful production we had called Wait Until Dark. Okay. She played the blind woman, if you're familiar with that production.
That was a movie many years ago. Yeah.
And finally, in the role of Edith, who is the maid, who has probably the most outward comical performance in the play, a little bit more physical, that is very adeptly played by Cassidy Shaw, who has a background in I believe, improv. So the physical comedy that is involved in that part, she's nailing. So very pleased with the entire cast.
Excellent. So,
Even more pleased that I remembered all of their names and parts.
let me tell you, those of us of advanced years admire your effort, and wish we could do the same at this stage of life. So, tell us about when was the previous production you did? You had the Pasture Prime.
I'm not sure I was not involved except as my capacity involved in the theater group. So I'm going to forget the name of the play, the previous play. But it was a small cast. It was 4 characters. Maybe it'll come to me, but I apologize. Prior to that, we did Soup du Jour, which was a musical production.
That was, yeah.
And we've admittedly kind of struggled to get our bearing post-pandemic, to get up to the regular schedule that we tried to have, which would be typically 3 adult productions in a Pasture Bedtime Players production. So we've been doing about 2 a year over the last 2 or 3 years.
Any expectation to ramp it up a little?
Yes, hopefully we will. 2025, we're optimistic we can fill out our calendar more thoroughly. We do have some limitations with the barn. It's sort of a 3-season venue at this point, in the dead of winter, and in the depths of summer, it's not very pleasant.
Well, can I suggest one of you, the members of your group, write a play that has a pot-bellied stove in it and that you could feed during a winter production?
That would be a viable solution.
I mean, when, what do they say? When life hands you a lemon, make lemonade.
Exactly.
I don't know how you'd overcome the summer situation.
Yes, the summer was tough. I mentioned previously, and I can tell a small anecdote. We did Wait Until Dark, and I believe that was almost 3 or 4 years ago. And one of the matinees, it was about 90 degrees outside. It was probably 100 degrees inside. My character that I played, had the luxury of playing, I had a period raincoat, and this play was set in the 60s.
Yeah.
I had a period raincoat, and anyone who knows about fashion and fashion design, raincoats have come a long way over the last 40 so years, 50 years.
Well, for the some sartorial experts might disagree with the term "come a long way," but they are certainly different now.
As far as ventilation in modern fabrics, I would say, because wearing that coat was like putting a rubber bag around my body, and my character sweat. I tried not to myself, but my character was sweating.
So I remember that movie was, trying to think who was in it.
Alan Arkin was,
Yeah.
I played the Alan Arkin role from the movie.
And the actress who played the blind, I'm trying to think.
I don't recall either.
I remember she was a very famous actress. Boy, are we getting old or what?
I'm right behind you.
But at least you're behind, not in front.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any idea in the future, any of the possible things you're thinking of playing?
No, that's up in the air. Generally, we would start determining the next season right around this time. So we're probably overdue, a little bit overdue. But it takes a full effort. You need someone with an idea, typically someone who would like to direct a particular project that they have in mind, and you have to pull a lot of things together. We have the good fortune of having a woman, Gina Metris, who runs the basically runs the Pasture Bedtime Players. So we always have, she always has a plan for what's coming next. There is a Pasture Bedtime Players show coming up, a Christmas show in December. Don't ask me the name of that either because I do not recall. But we will be having a Christmas show for children coming up, and then we'll determine our season in the next month or so, month or two for 2025.
Our archival department let us know that Audrey Hepburn
Audrey Hepburn.
was in Wait Until Dark.
Who could
Who
forget?
played the blind lady.
Except for
Oh, yeah.
me and you.
There you go. Who could forget? Well, we know who could forget.
Thank God for Google.
So you also, Pasture Prime Players, or Pasture Prime, or the whole organization, also has other things going on like the coffee house.
Yes, the Grizzly Adams Coffee House, which is basically an open mic.
We should mention where Group Grizzly Adams is resting right now.
Right across the street. And I have tracked down his gravestone over there, so I can personally attest to that, that he is interred at the, I guess it's the town cemetery.
And he did not really have a child connection, did he?
I'm not exactly sure.
Other than he's always going to have one now.
I believe he died somewhere in the Midwest, so I'm not even sure how he ever ended up back here, but or here, period.
But the coffee house is named after him.
Yes, and so that is a kind of an open mic, open to all levels of people who would like to make music. And I believe it's the third Sunday of the month, but I'm not positive about that. Please check our webpage at www.pastureprimeplayers.com.
Yep.
I think.
So anybody can come in and play.
And that's the whole focus of Pasture Prime across the board. When we have auditions, if anyone locally here in Charlton is interested in auditioning, or we're always looking for help behind the scenes, stage management, directors, again, actors to audition regardless of level. I never acted before I walked through the door, and I've gone on to be in several productions, and it's been rewarding, and I think a lot of people would find it that way, a good outlet for life.
That sounds like a great little community, or maybe not so little, but a great little local community.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're thinking of getting involved, pastureprimeplayers.com, is it?
I believe so.
It's easy to get to. All you have to do is learn to spell pasture and prime.
Pasture as in a field and prime.
There you go.
Yes, and I think I'm fairly certain that there are a lot of Charltonians that are unaware of the fact that they have a viable theater within their town that offers very inexpensive entertainment. You can come see a live performance of actors and actresses that have probably devoted hundreds of hours and months of their time as volunteers to put on a good show, entertain people for roughly the price it would cost to go to the movie theater.
Well, and also I have a relative down in New York City. The price of going to Pasture Prime Players is a tiny fraction.
I think it's probably a container of popcorn
Relative.
in New York City.
Yeah, and you don't serve popcorn down there.
We could.
This could be a...
We usually do serve refreshments, complimentary at intermission. I should add that Blithe Spirit is happens to be a 3-act play, so there will be 2 shorter intermissions, and it is a little bit of a long play, but and people's attention spans seem to have condensed over the last few years, but I think if something is entertaining and it can hold people's attention, the time that it takes to put on the show becomes inconsequential.
I would agree with you as one of the first of the TV generations. I have seen, and also having worked in schools and things like that, I have seen the level of attention span shrink. So this has really come out, pay attention, you get to see something really good in your local community.
And now I think due to internet-based sites like TikTok and things where the idea is to get a clip that's 30 seconds long or 20 seconds, it's even
brutal.
condensed that further.
It's got to be truly, really brutal.
So I think the beauty of local theater and theater in general is that you can go and spend 2 hours, 2.5, 3 hours, and forget about everything else that's going on in life and immerse yourself in a production where the actors and actresses are literally feet away from you. You can hear them breathe. You might know when if they make a mistake, but it's very intimate and rewarding, I think, for both the cast and the audience.
I would tend to agree. At Grizzly Adams, do you play any instrument or sing?
I do, but not to the level where I would subject anyone other than me and my family to actually hear me. So.
But it's the amateur anyway.
I've devoted myself to acting and kind of put the music a little bit on side, although it's a good outlet as well.
Okay, so is it this? It's not this Sunday. It's the Sunday after for this month.
For the play.
For the Grizzly.
Sorry.
Grizzly Adams.
Oh yes, I think it's the 3rd. So my dates are going to be bad. So it may be upcoming Sunday, but that would be Sunday the. What are we at, the 10th and 9th here? So.
Yeah, it's 9th today.
Yeah. And if it was the week following, I think it would conflict with our show. I'm not positive.
Okay.
Time's getting short, so I'm getting a little bit panicky, making sure that we have everything.
I do not want to cause you any, but if it's this week, Ed, you can go on the Pasture Prime Players website and get your tambourine ready and come down to what the venue is again.
Right here at 4 Dressy Hill Road.
No, for the Grizzly Adams. Is that
it's the same.
Is he it too?
I believe they hold it in what is the lower barn, but I'm not sure.
Oh,
You know,
okay.
here this structure has the farmhouse
Yeah.
and the barn where we perform, and then the lower barn. So I believe that's the case, but I'm not positive.
Okay. So I'm trying to squeeze as much as I can out of you about Pasture Prime. So give us some more. Would you say it's a 20-year-old?
I believe it's older than that. I want to say, I'm not an expert on the history, but I want to say 1986 or 7.
That's a long time.
The gentleman, the past president, who's also a board member and kind of the driving force of Pasture Prime, Don Konopacki, he was one of the founders of the theater. He'd been involved in another theater, and him and another gentleman whose name escapes me, I believe, came up with the idea. I'm not sure which one of them came up with the clever Pasture Prime Players name, but Don Konopacki has really been the driving force and helped to keep Pasture Prime alive through, highs and lows over the last 30 or so years.
I believe we've had Don Konopacki here.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I remember that, because I'm not remembering that much in my dotage, is Konopacki is a distinctive name.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like Fred Smith. And yeah, but we've had people from a number of places. We've also had the Pasture Bedtime Players. They've done some Harry Potter stuff, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And they're an enthusiastic group too.
Yes, and it's always good to some of the people who have been involved in the Pasture Bedtime Players Theater have gone on to perform in adult theater since then. There's a young woman, Abby Simpson, who's been involved in plays here in the past, and she will be on our in our crew as a assistant stage manager and hair and makeup person for this play. As you might imagine, portraying the departed takes a little bit more attention to makeup to distinguish the living from the dead. So, she will be an important addition to our group.
Good, great, yeah. So you got Pasture Bedtime, you got Pasture Prime, you got Grizzly Adams. You got any other subsidiary?
Well, one thing we try to do is to be present in the community, so we always participate in the Charlton Old Home Day and the Blueberry Festival, which is basically held here. So we always have a booth and a presence there to expose people. As I mentioned, a lot of people, even though we try to promote ourselves as much as possible, there's a lot of other noise out there, so sometimes the message doesn't get through, but we do those events to try to bring people in, get people interested, obviously come see our shows, but also to get involved in whatever capacity people would wish to. So we're always open. That's the focus of community theater, is to try to bring the community in and get involved.
Okay, you should think about the Charlton Farmers Market, and when I say that, you say, well, what is he talking about? They have an event that's unique, that kind of sounds like almost, well, maybe to me, because it's a little delusional, theater event is, have you ever heard of the Rutabaga Roll?
I do not know. I do not think so.
Sort of like bocce with a rutabaga.
Okay.
And they do it at the last farmers market every year. That sounds to me like it's something you guys could run with and really bring, well, slightly comedic, because I mean, bocce with a rutabaga, how serious can that get? So, just because, it just sounds like it fits. So, and you're looking at me like, what's this guy? What's this nuts?
Yeah.
No.
We will look into it.
We will.
I've
heard that. I've heard that before. So give us some there's got to be something more. I mean, I know you guys have a lot going on, but so I'm pushing something else out of you.
Yes. Well, as I mentioned, look forward to our 2025 season, as yet to be determined. And if anybody has some good ideas for some shows we could do, we'd always, lend an ear to that. But basically, I would say for anything upcoming, I mentioned the children's show with children. I think it might be children adult show, but I'm not positive. And I should know. I apologize. But keep your eyes open for our 2025 season. See what is in store.
I'm sure we'll have you back.
I would love to come back. It's been a pleasure.
I am going to go right home and start working on my next play, Murder at the Rutabaga Roll.
We will. I will personally read it as soon as you can get me a copy.
Sure. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Richard Morco with a special edition of the Long Hill Report with Steve Jean of the Pasture Prime Players, speaking about their upcoming production of Blithe Spirit, coming at the end of this month and the beginning of next month. If you want to give the dates one more time.
Sure, I'll try. 24th, 25th, 26th, 27th. The 25th and 6th are at 7:30 p.m. The 27th is 2 p.m. 1st, 2nd of November at 7:30 p.m. and the 3rd at 2 p.m. on Sunday.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Richard. Appreciate it.